And we are live.
My name is your boss, and you're listening to Smooth Breakfast. The Smooth Breakfast presents the headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Love music, love life. It's now 31 minutes past 7 o'clock, and you are welcome to Freshly Pressed. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast that runs every weekday, and Freshly Pressed is on from 7:30 till 8 o'clock every weekday. It's a feel-good Friday, and we hope that the stories make us feel good, but your thoughts are always welcome. WhatsApp line to send your messages to is 0809 444 0981. You can join us on YouTube, and we're currently streaming live at Smooth 92 FM Lagos, at Smooth 92 FM Lagos. My name is Oluwaseun, and it's time for us to have a comprehensive analysis of the newspaper headlines from the dailies. Joining me via Zoom, as always, my distinguished analyst on a Friday. Please welcome Mr. Joseph Obari. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. Good to be here again. Listeners, you're all welcome, Ebi. Good to see you again.
And welcome with me, Mr. Ebi Bozimo. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. Good morning, Joseph. And good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there.
Thank you. Let's get right to business, and starting with the number one story. The IKEDC Electricity Distribution Company has confirmed that its headquarters was invaded by personnel from the Nigerian Air Force on Thursday morning. Mr. Ibi?
This is a story that hurts me at a certain level because I am very much someone who respects all arms of the security and military forces. I have nothing but the greatest hope that they would always comport themselves properly. This story contains the fact that they said uniformed Air Force officers. Normally, you associate officers. I mean, when you think of the discipline it takes to be a soldier, when you think of what it takes to see your teeth, your white teeth shining in their shiny boots, those people are top-notch ordinarily. In this instance, they demeaned and reduced the esteem that ordinarily they should be held to the lowest level. We hear that some of them, because their base have been disconnected, there are two sides to the story. Their base have been disconnected for assorted reasons. One is lack of payment. Bad enough, but that's the first thing. Two, the IKEDC distribution people had tried to go in and they had conversations. They tried to make payment arrangements and have equipment to monitor. They were not normally being allowed to enter the space to check, because this property is not the property of the base, it's the property of the distribution company. They were typically not allowed to enter. And then even when they entered, there was a lot of hostility and danger to the people. Finally, after some prolonged standoff, they were disconnected. After 1 to 3 days, people now came to the IKEDC distribution company and forced their way in and destroyed all sorts of equipment, took away certain things. I think this has the worst elements of unbridled sense of power. There is no condition under which, but let's take a step back. A military base is ordinarily a specialized place that should not just be left to its own devices. I would say, while this is a symptom, this is a failure at a higher level. How come the military, with typically the largest budget line in Nigeria on any given year, how come the military will not make proper provision for power there? Because something that was very dangerous was that there are certain armament and so on in those places that are supposed to be stored under highly controlled circumstances and situations. And if they're exposed to heat, they could be lethal. So this is not merely a case of power being owed to the IKEDC, but a case of improper management from the highest levels down. But at the end of the day, what these particular officers did was wrong, reckless, and should be punished to the full extent of military law.
Thank you. Would you like to add, Mr. Joe?
Not really. I think it's very sickening. That's all I can say.
All right, you can be a part of the conversation and send your thoughts to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. Remember that you can join us on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. At Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Let's go to the next story coming from Daily Post, and this is about the Nigerian Senate suspending Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months over the allegation of sexual harassment against the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. Mr. Joseph?
Well, I think let's put things in perspective. She was not suspended because of the allegation she made against the Senate President, but because of the way she acted in expressing her grievance on the floor of the distinguished chambers. So I watched the presentation of the report by the Ethics and Privileges Committee of the Senate, and I can't fault anything they said there, because it was made very clear that the issue at stake is not the person of the Senate President. It is that hallowed chamber and how she had behaved in presenting her grievance. So I think that they have been very, 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 in fact, I'm sure the persons who presented this might be lawyers, because they address the salient issues in that matter. Now, you may have your grievance, you may not be happy about where certain things have done, but you must be able to follow the rules of a place where you operate. You should know the basic rules. You should understand these things. And unfortunately, Nigerians are driven more by emotions than anything else. And we bring sentiments into issues in our analysis of the situations. And so everybody is like, oh, she's a woman, you're just maltreating a woman. It is not about the woman being maltreated. It's not as if one is pushing aside the importance of her anger and social. Maybe she's been harassed. But how is she supposed to present that? Her seat was relocated. She's not happy about it. How has she presented that to the house where she belongs? That's the Senate, for goodness sake. You don't just go there and start ranting and shouting and make all those kind of drama that we saw on the day she was first reallocated. Her seat was reallocated. So the point is about decorum. Act with decorum, follow the rules of be knowledgeable, first of all, so that you can follow the rules of where you operate. So now, but I noticed also that they gave her soft landing. They say if she could just tender a written apology to the Senate, all this punishment can go. So we're watching to see if she is somebody who has humility and she will admit that, oh, the way I behaved has been wrong. Now, the other aspect I want to address is the presentation of a petition against the Senate President. And it was discountenanced because they say it didn't follow the rules too, which means that she didn't even understand the process of expressing her own grievance on the floor of the Senate. Otherwise, she would have ensured that it is properly presented and it can be heard. That being said, the allegation is weighty enough for it to merit independent investigation somehow, or she should have been, I expected the committee should redirect her to represent that grievance or petition in the proper order. And then they can now look at it and investigate. Since she says she's got evidence to prove that she's been harassed, so we want to see, we would like to know those details and so on. So it's very important. Then the other aspect I want to talk about is the related story where the First Lady spoke about that and in a subtle manner tend to dismiss the allegation. She made mention of things like, as a woman in that chamber, it is she used the word a mature chambers, a mature place, and that, you know, a woman can rise above. So that's not true. For goodness sake, let's face it. Anybody, any female can be harassed, sexually harassed, whether she's married, she's young, she's old. It just depends on who is the aggressor. Yeah, and anybody could any man can do that. Any woman can harass a man too. So men get harassed. So let us not belittle such weighty allegation and unfortunately, it pains me that it is even women that are those who tend to want to push aside and downplay this allegation. It's a very weighty allegation, and if it turns out to be untrue, then the woman should be punished for it. But you don't say it didn't happen to you because it didn't happen to me. I was there for 12 years, so nobody harassed me. I've raised myself above any man advances from any man. I shut it down before. Yes, women are able, they are gifted by God to sense even when a man is thinking such negative or belittling thoughts towards them. And they can behave in such a manner to shut it down. But not everybody has that ability to be able to defend themselves or shut things down. But if you're pushed to a corner, especially where there are favors that could come, or where a person has a higher authority over you, you can find yourself cornered. And so what do you do? Are you going to just, maybe until this happened, we couldn't have known. So if it happened to some people and they were able to manage it, or they kept quiet about it and manage it subtly, doesn't mean that everybody else who goes through that should keep quiet. You should keep quiet. There have been situations, I mean, Hollywood, everywhere, people have been taken on the advantage of just because somebody had a higher power. So let us not downplay this matter. There should be a way to subject this allegation to proper investigation. And if wrong has been done, the persons who are any person who is responsible should answer for it. But to sweep it under the carpet, under technicalities, the way it's been done, I'm not satisfied. But on the behavior of Senator Oduanga, in respect of her attitude on the floor of the Senate, I think the committee was very, very, very lenient.
Thank you for your submission on this. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Ebi? Well, that's fine. You're muted. You are muted.
Sorry, just to restate that it's a weighty allegation. It does seem to me that the conditions should be created where it can be investigated. If I were the one at the end of that allegation, I'd be desperate to actually demonstrate that the allegation is incorrect, so that in that case, I can prescribe punishment for a false accusation. I would not want it shut down, but that's just me.
All right, thank you. We'll take some messages before we go to the next story. I have Andrew from Ikpaja saying, it was wrong for Ikeja Disco to go ahead to the military barracks. Do you know what it is for the barracks to be in perpetual darkness? Yet, we need a security men to protect us. The blame for the indebtedness should rest squarely at the doorstep of the government, which has caused tariffs to rise to unaffordable levels. If the military does not react that way, other discos will soon disconnect other military and police formations.
And they should be disconnected, please, for goodness sake.
They should pay
They're not different from any other Nigerians. They are paid, they have budget for paying for electricity. If they cannot stay on the grid, if they cannot stay on the grid, let them provide themselves with, I mean, they get funds. So let them, for those sensitive areas, let them have dedicated power supply. If they have to put generators there, if they have to buy diesels, let them buy. But they cannot use public. So this is a private business. The discos are individuals who spend money to set up the business. So
and number two,
power to government agencies free, though how are they going to recover their money? Nigerians,
Besides that,
you can't be this insensitive, always sentimental about it, military men. So what?
Why should military people go and beat up and destroy internally? Meanwhile, terrorists are killing us all over the place. So that's a wrong use of power. Full stop. There is no excuse for that madness.
Thank you. We move to the next message from Dio, who says, "Good morning, crew. Ade from Ade from Lagos. You can see the drama playing out concerning Akpabio and Natasha Akpoti. He has had past controversy with Ireti Kingibe and the former NDDC boss that slapped him in the Schoolboys Act. You can also see his wife is supporting him. The worst thing of all, the rubber stamp Senate won't talk or impeach him because they have been compromised with 160 million SUV and other national cake. Now they have suspended her. Like they say, birds of the same feather flock together. They say loyalty is cash and carry." All right. Then we move to Mr. Ajayi Olonilua from Magudo GRE Sherry, who says, "Regarding the business of this morning, although it's improper for the military men to invade the offices of Ikeja Electricity, the atrocity of this fraudulent discourse as it relates to the illegal estimated bills on hapless consumers must be checked." Rexy from Surulere says, "Can we rather discuss the fact that PBAT's good policies have brought the Naira to 1.490 to the dollar, not all this lascivious allegations that has no relevance to our daily challenges. The allegations and parties involved are unserious." That is not true, Rexy. Oluwaseun says, "If you're familiar with the Nigerian military, you can't really be surprised. Decades of military rule made them imperious. They also consider themselves superior to us. They should pay their debts. To them, we're just bloody civilians. I can assure you no one will really be punished. As for Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the Senate are the ones making themselves a mockery of themselves. They are trying to humble her and she refused to be humbled. If I were in her shoes, I would have apologized too. By the way, she has tendered a petition against the so-called right way, and it was overlooked. Your analysts forgot to mention that they are going against a court order by suspending her."
No.
Tony from
No,
Tony
so
from
let me correct that. You cannot stop the Senate or any the National Assembly from performing its legitimate duties by a court rule. You cannot. So if the listener should understand that there is a certain protection for the function of any legislature. The court is prevented from interfering in the legitimate function, and that is one of it.
Tony from Isola says, "When Mrs. Tinubu was in the Senate, she accused Senator Dino Melaye of threatening to rape her." Then Daniel from Svestak says, "Hello, Smooth. The analysis of Senator Akpoti's behavior is spot on. I feel she played the victim to excuse her unruly behavior. I fear she has no solid evidence against the Senate president. And rather than gather enough, she chose to use her gender to gain sympathy. I hope she apologizes, but continues her seeking justice if she was harassed by the president. The allegations shouldn't be swept away. It's shocking what the Air Force soldiers did. That Nigerians support this is depressing. I pray Ikeja Disco keeps them in darkness until they pay their bills and the perpetrators arrested and punished. Terrible behavior of our soldiers." Sadly, I cannot continue with the messages because we have to move on to the next story. So let's talk about this one coming from this day. And the federal government yesterday unveiled its plan to establish the second operation, Safe Corridors Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration. This is DDR camp, in order to de-radicalize and rehabilitate low-risk terrorists who willfully lay down their arms in the Northwest Zone. Mr. Joseph.
Well, this is one area that's been a concern, that we de-radicalize terrorists. Sometimes it works. I mean, but this program has achieved significant success, though. Some of these people who were able to lay down their arms and come for rehabilitation have gone back. But once in a while, we hear of some of these people who return back to their ways. And when they do, it becomes very scary because I don't know the details of the radicalization, and what is done there. But what if the terrorists actually send people in to pretend to be de-radicalized? Yeah, and then they pretend to be reintegrated into society. Or one of the reasons why some of these people go back is that they say that they come back and they don't really find a way to be able to fit in anymore. Or maybe at the community level, people see them as, you see this one, he's one of them, and so on. So they need to address those issues that make people want to go back or get lured back into these crimes. But it's not strange to know, it's not just Nigeria alone. Even in other parts of the world, there is a program for the radicalization of people who have sold themselves into terrorism. It's significant that this interaction is happening because there are representations from the whole of the Sahel, because as you know, the whole of West Africa is under threat of terrorism. There is hardly any country in the whole of West Africa that is not at danger. All of it spill over from the broken down Libya, the kind of crisis in Libya is spilling over into, so we have become like a target for international terrorism to infiltrate our nation and cause serious disturbance. Not only that, this part of Africa is richly endowed. You have solid minerals, you've got oil, you've got so many other things, and the terrorists need funding to buy armaments and also fund their activities. So if if they can get hold of these things, these resources, then they will be able to easily sell them in the black market and so on, the international black market, and fund their activities. And that's why West Africa is very attractive to them. So whatever nations can do, collaborations, working together, it will be very, very helpful to be able to deal with terrorism. It's asymmetrical warfare because you're not seeing the person, you're not facing and shooting. So they come back again and launch at your soft belly at each time. And that's why you find we keep saying, oh, well, they always say they've degraded the capacity of Boko Haram. But once in a while they strike, because that is the nature of the warfare. It's guerrilla warfare. We watch you, know where your soft targets are, and then they hit you. And then because there is poverty in this region, they also lure citizens by giving them favors, giving them money, giving them food. In some places, you're actually catering for young people, giving them stuff. They don't have jobs, they give them money, they make them earn a living. So it becomes attractive. And we should be it's not just waiting until young people get absorbed into terrorism, then you de-radicalize them. But you should be able to prevent young people. There should be a program that educates young people enough to resist the temptation to get into terrorism. I think that is one aspect, that preventive aspect, that should be paid more attention to, so that we are not spending so much money on trying to de-radicalize people, but prevent them from getting attracted into terrorism.
Before I take your thought, if you have any addition, Mr. Ebi, what do you think, for both of you now, what do you think of the latest reports from the Global Terrorism Index saying that Nigeria ranks 7th globally in terms of terrorism, and the comments, 6th rather, and the comments of the General Kangi saying that what they produce, I mean, in terms of the information inside, is more accurate than the one that comes from outside, and that they're not seeing clearly.
It's unfortunate.
Go on.
It's unfortunate if our general tends to want to be dismissive of an independent evaluation. If you're humble enough, you should be able to say, oh, okay, so what do they have that I don't have? What information do they have that I do not have? So you cannot just dismiss and say, oh, well, we have more accurate information. So why are you not supplying such information to the people if they approach you? Or you say, this is what we have that you don't have. But we all know that we have not dealt with terrorism effectively. Some of the things we call banditry in this country are actually domestic terrorism. And there is such a thing as domestic terrorism. So and they are related. Most of the time, they have to do with resources, solid minerals, and so on. They also fuel these things. Yeah, because like I said before, terrorist groups need funds. And if they can get their hands on gold or whatever, they will do it. They will use it. They will need it. They need money. So it's very presumptive of our general to dismiss such an international independent assessment of what the situation is. We all know we've not effectively dealt with terrorism.
All right, Ms. Ebi.
For me, I find that nomenclature, low-level terrorists, how do they put it? They called low-risk terrorist. That word, that's an incongruous term. But most interestingly, you are dismissing the views of an internal person. You have a right to do that, if I may say that, but you also dismiss their arms and money. So if you can't dismiss arms and money, I think you should take their views as well as your own internal information. I don't think it's helpful. That's not a helpful posture to take.
Thank you. Now we'll stay with you on this one, coming from D-Stay. And according to the headline, allow local refineries to survive. The group, that is Conference of Energy and Finance Consultants, urging NNPCL as well as NMDPRA, which is the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority.
Fundamentally, they're saying let the refineries breathe. And the point is, they're saying, what struck me in this story is that they're saying the NNPC, they're alleging that the NNPC is trying to reduce the amount of fuel that's going to go to Dangote refinery. That is an allegation, for me, not yet proven, because they want to maintain the importation of fuel. Right now, it is stated or alleged that Dangote refinery can literally provide all the fuel we need, not just in Nigeria, but in the sub-region. But for some people, there has been a gravy train for decades of deals for importation. And they are troubled that the reputation, again, is reputation of the Dangote fuel is supposed to be very sweet, very easy to use and everything. And a few privileged people, they describe them as crooks in the story, but I'll call them people because I'm polite, want to continue importing products from outside Nigeria so that they can maintain that logistic train where they get cuts at perhaps many, many points. I think this is a major issue of national importance. And while we must follow allegations of this and that in the Senate, let the National Assembly set up a very high-powered delegation or committee to investigate why are we still importing fuel in refined products in Nigeria when we have a refinery, a private refinery, admittedly, that is capable of producing it. Who stands to gain when Nigeria stands to lose from continuously putting our very rare forex out there to buy fuel? This is a simple question that should get, it may be a complex answer, but it can be answered. And those who are in charge inside NNPC and NNDPRA, whatever they're called, all these NNs that do nothing.
Is it me?
Because point where trying to produce crude to Dangote can produce fuel, and then trying to sustain this importation. Dangote's refinery, for good or bad, is a game changer. Even in Europe, a lot of those refiners are complaining because their options are running dry. They can't export to places like Nigeria anymore. So let's get down into the nitty-gritty and find out who is trying to keep on importing fuel and cut them off. They are not helping Nigeria. They should get into a new business, import ions, import flowers, import apples, stop importing fuel.
It's more lucrative to import petrol.
Then they should get out of business. I mean, they are damaging Nigeria. I mean, I'm being facetious, but the point is,
I'm laughing over this, but you're very right.
I'm being facetious. Myself, I'm being facetious in this matter, but it is a matter of serious importance. Why are we wasting forex? Hard to get forex importing fuel. It's preposterous.
Thank you. Would you like anything to be added to that?
Yeah, the other aspect is simply that why is it curiously that our refineries owned by government or an NPCL, a so-called L, that L is questionable. Why are they not working after so many billions of dollars, and they are not working? Nobody's talking to us. Nobody say anything. And all they do, because they cannot, that's not working. I know that, I understand this kind of pressure thing. Dangote is struggling for survival. So these consultants are actually speaking on behalf of Dangote. That's how these things work. Because if he doesn't do this, they'll go ahead to stifle him. They will prevent them from having the crude oil to refine. So this is like a cry for help. Look, oh, they want to strangle me again. So at least they put it on in the public, and he cannot come out to say it. Some people have to say it for him. But the curious thing is, why is it that Port Harcourt refinery, they say, oh, they have come to production, they always started, then community says it's a lie. Oh, no, why is it that we are not trucking petrol from Port Harcourt refinery after $1.5 billion? Why?
And various visits by labor, the labor that wanted to go against the phone companies, they went there and they said, oh, yes, it's working. I'm not seeing the trucks. Nigeria has not seen the trucks.
Maybe the L standing for limited means limited in operations and effectiveness.
Or loser. L could be for loser.
Okay, we'll quickly do some messages and we wrap this up because we're out of time. On YouTube, Chuk says, there is no responsible first world country that utilizes resources to rehabilitate terrorists. Leaders need to stand up and do what is right. There are other sectors to utilize those resources. And we go to WhatsApp with this one coming from Damilola from Lagos Island, saying government and military should be cut off if they don't pay their power bills. Otherwise, other ordinary customers will be paying what's owed on their behalf. Idimaputa from Surulere says, the shameful suspension of Natasha in Senate shouldn't be swept under carpet by APC's broom. In a Senate climb, Akpabio should resign, not using his position to suspend his accuser for 6 months. This is impunity carried too far. Jane says, good morning, guys. Disco busy upgrading everyone to band A, but supplying band C power average. Well, Tony from Iket. Bandage. I'm sorry, Joseph may be pretending not to know that the Nigerian system over time has been designed to rubbish the truth while enabling all sorts of corruption and irregularities. A man who's losing his utterances is next to a pedophile. I guess Akpabio knows something about getting too cozy with the female gender. Instances abound. And Deji says, the actions of the Air Force was totally unwarranted. I hope proper justice is done to all parties concerned. I also hope your studios are safe from sudden invasion by uniformed men. They have a very poor record of accepting criticism. Great job, smooth people. Adigboyega Adedeji says, we wouldn't be here if proper investigation and prosecution were made and done when the first allegation of sexual harassment came to the open against the Senate President, Mr. Godwin Akpabio, by the NDCC Madam. The case was trivialized and shut down, and we all moved on as if nothing happened. Years passed by, same allegations by another woman on the same man has sprung up. Again, there is a gang up by those in power to kill the matter. The question should be, was it about Senate that, what is it about in bad feelings around women? While I have Emeka saying, regarding the Natasha saga, I was imagining if the Monica Lewinsky scandal had happened in Nigeria. Based on this event, you can actually imagine. Christy from Ikeja says, please can you shed some light on one of the Senate rules as said by a former senator on TV yesterday that a senator cannot be suspended for more than 14 days as it will not be in the interest of the constituents that voted her in. And before I take that, if there is any comments on that, Z-Man from Bristol says, good morning, guys. This Senator Natasha drama reminds me of cases of child sexual molestation perpetrated by adults on minors within a family. Most times, all the adults would gang up to protect the abuser just because he's older and wields influence within the family. It's very disheartening. Do we have a rule of law anymore in Nigeria? Military personnel invade electricity provider's office and attack civilians. Truly a pity. Would you like to comment on what was said by Christy from Ikeja, saying something said by one of the senators that A senator cannot be suspended for more than 40 days, as it will not be in the interest of the constituent that voted her in.
Well, I know that they have what they call the Red Book. I'm not been privileged to read every letter in it, so I don't know if specifically he said you cannot suspend somebody for not more than 14 days. But the point is that we've seen people suspended for as long as 6 months. She's not the first person. Ndume suffered the same fate, and some other persons whose behaviors were considered not acceptable, not only in this particular Senate. The other Senates have taken actions against their members. So if they have their rules should be their rules. And I don't know those details.
Thank you very much for your time this morning and your contribution. And thank you for always being there. I guess another week is almost upon us and we'll have you back. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Thank you, Mr. Ebi.
Thank you, Oluwaseun.
Have a fabulous Friday ahead.
And the entire family. It's good to see you people and have a safe weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Lagos, Nigeria, world, for being a part of Freshly Pressed for this 7th of March, 2025. Next week, we'll go again. And Smooth Breakfast continues because 8:15, we need to talk about sports inside the locker room. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun.
The headline. The story.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely having you.
I like the way you call your name.
Yes,
accentuated. Oluwaseun. What does it mean? What does it mean?
Okay, so Oluwaseun means is a short form of Oluwaseun for me, which means God has done something for me.